Hey guys, welcome to the second episode of something to do with Menoth. Still haven't decided on a name yet. I've had some good suggestions. Outback Steakhouse was one that I quite enjoyed. Musing on Menoth has apparently been very popular, even though I thought that was extremely unoriginal. I think I'm going to go with something to do with dogs, because all my other video casts have had to do with dogs. A dog's breakfast, a dog's breakfast, and some fun way of incorporating Menoth and dogs. So I don't really have any clue where I'm going to go with it yet, but hopefully I'll have something soon. Today, first episode, we'll actually talk about models. This is High Legient Amon Ad-Raza. So the format for these episodes is going to be approximately 10 to 15 minutes per episode. I did have some plans of having longer episodes along the way as well, but for the most part, I want to keep them fairly short and hopefully fairly interesting. This particular episode, I'm going to focus on two models, which is Amon and a Dervish. So I'm going to basically speak about these models briefly, talk about where I expect them to fall within the competitive spectrum, how I plan to use them, what things I see as strengths and what things I see as weaknesses, from a perspective of having never played the faction ever. So this will be done again after I've played for about 6 months, so you'll probably find that a lot of my perspectives and opinions may have changed, or they may have stayed the same. I don't know, that's part of the fun of this process, and it would be good to go back and watch this after I've had a few months of playing with them to see what I thought. But to start off with Amon, so he's not considered super strong in a lot of competitive circles, and I think it's fairly obvious why. He does have a significant weakness, and that's blatantly obvious when I look at his card, which is his armor value of 14 and his focus stat of 6. So he doesn't ever have enough focus to run warjacks, and he doesn't ever have the ability to camp to high armor levels to stay safe. And for a midline caster, that's not a good place to be in. I played... I've got the camera sitting on a stack of books at the moment, so it's a little bit wonky. So if you see the camera shaking and you're epileptic, I advise you to stop watching and maybe just listen to this through your earphones. I played Prime Kaya for quite a bit when I was playing with Circle, and she is in a very, very similar position in that she has reasonable defense but pathetic armor and has to play upfield to get the most value out of her. She does have Fury that she can camp though, to protect her a little bit more, and occultation. Amon has some advantages. Groundwork and perfect balance, both pretty useful. Groundwork in particular means that if you can ever get to a situation where you've got cover, that defense goes to 18/20, depending on if you're talking about melee or attack over a wall. Defense 20 is respectable. That's levels of you're going to be pretty safe from the most things. So for me, that's going to be a fairly important part of playing him on and playing him well, is being able to utilise terrain. He does have Pathfinder, which is a bit of a rarity for Menoth Jackson. While we're on that topic, let's go to one of the reasons why I think he could be awesome, which is of course mobility. Menoth Jacks have a reputation of being quite slow, but hitting extremely hard thanks to the choir, and they do have a significant weakness to Pathfinder, to terrain. Amon brings that to his battle group, which is incredible. And +2 speed is also pretty ridiculous. I think that a fairly warjack heavy list for him is the way I'll definitely be going to maximise the benefits of that. And that's without talking about synergy either. And Viros 2, the tier list with the 7 Griffins, has definitely gone a long way towards proving how strong synergy can be in a competitive environment. He does have the advantage of being a lot more durable and a lot harder to kill than Amon though. So going back to some of the other things that Amon brings, perfect balance is not a massive deal, but no backstrikes and no free strikes and no CRAs is pretty useful. There's a lot of times when a free strike or a combined melee can sometimes put a bit of a force you to change your plans, and Amon giving that to his battle group is, it's got some potential. It's nothing spectacular, And in terms of its feat, the fact that it's a feat, it's a pretty average feat, let's be honest. I mean, he gets to cast all his spells and hand out 6 focus and give perfect balance. So nothing special, but it's still got some things that I like about him. So one of the things with Kaya that I found when I was playing her was I had to play her in a midfield position where she was vulnerable sometimes, but you could usually protect her by having models in front of her and blocking the lanes to get to her. She never made too many attacks in the early game, but sometimes in the late game I'd go out there and swing her stick and she'd do some damage, but usually she was a bit average. Amon, on the other hand, he's going to be a lot more powerful in that late game because he's going to be able to rack up a synergy chain. He's got a combo smite, which is pretty awesome. Sorry, not just a smite, star attack, which is great. And then he's also got Thresher. And like for a reach weapon with Thresher, that's pretty ridiculous. For a Mat 7, Power 14 reach weapon that ignores shield walls and shields, that's pretty awesome. And if I've managed to rack up a bit of synergy early on, then that could potentially be, Mat 10, Mat 11, Power 16, 17, 18 attack, which is pretty good. Again, because there's no risk of him being knocked down, like he's still going to be defense 16, you might as well have him upfield and be attacking things and trying to protect him from ranged with other aspects. But so his spells, obviously, convection, shit, probably never going to get cast. The only time you might cast it is if you are using it for your feet. You've got no models you can attack in melee, so you might as well throw out a convection and try and hit someone, potentially rack up an extra focus point. Flagellation is actually quite useful. There's not many ways to avoid tough in this game, generally speaking. Entropic Force and the Blood Hag and the Silence of Death are the only major ones that I can think of off the top of my head. Flagellation is another one. It's not great in terms of what it's going to do because it has to be on Amon, but it also removes synergy, which is the biggest issue that I can see. But if you get down to the late game and you're coming up against, a caster with tough, like a Terminus or whatever, mate, you could throw Flagellation down on him and potentially do some damage. So definitely worth having in your back pocket, but nothing to bank a game on. So his 2 moneymaker spells are obviously mobility and synergy. Mobility is massive for Menoth Jax, and I think his battle group, you want to try and encourage Jax that can really maximise the benefit of that. So things with reach and things with speed 5 innately. So those 2 things are huge. And with synergy, look, I think that the Virus tier works because the Griffins are extremely good value at 4 points. Have Pathfinder innately, have reach, speed 6. Extremely hard to pin down where the actual attack's going to come from. Whereas with a Menoth version of that sort of list, I don't think you're going to get the same sort of benefit because there's no really cheap light jacks that have the same sort of benefits. The Devout obviously is quite good, but the Dervish, which is the equivalent of the Griffin, is not anywhere near as good. So that particular style list isn't going to work. So I think the synergy chain needs to be set up in a different way, which is building, instead of having multiple vectors where your synergy chain can end, you're going to have 1 endpoint or 2 endpoints, which is going to be a heavy, which is going to be set up to, rack up probably 3 or 4 synergy, and that will be the endpoint. That will be where the final blow comes from. So I'm not going to talk too much about a list for Amon today because I think that he's got quite a few ways you can build him. I may actually put together a list and have a chat about that next episode, or I might go through all the casters and stuff. No, I think I don't know. I'll see what happens. Haven't decided. Well-oiled machine, this fucking podcast thing. It's going great. Big Deno. Alright, so the final aspect of Amon is obviously his feat, which is 1 focus to his Warjack. So his weakness is that he can't allocate focus. His feat bypasses that for 1 turn, which means he's a caster that is really important. You get a great feat turn, and if you don't, he's going to die. He's going to get killed, whatever. It's fucking game over. You're unfortunate, like his armor 14 is huge, So you really need a way to be able to protect him. And fortunately, Manoth are in a great position in that they've got shield guards and some great shield guards and a devout, which also gives you the ability to get spell ward onto your caster. Now that is a huge advantage because it shuts out both of the assassination abilities, the ranged and the magic and the ranged assassination. So that only leaves you with melee, and if, as I said, you get practiced at how you play a caster upfield, you can usually block off lanes, you can usually make it difficult for an enemy to get too many models to you via melee. So that's Amon. He just, something about him I'm just really interested to try. I don't know that he's going to fall into my final competitive collection of casters, but P-Kai did. P-Kai was really someone that I thought was going to be a bit of fun, but actually ended up being incredible, and I had a lot of success with her. So I could see him on breaching the same ground and potentially being incredible, but I can also see him failing abysmally. So I think the key with him is going to be playing a lot of games and getting that positioning really, really perfect. So I'm excited to try him. He's definitely number one on the list for me. So I'm just going to talk briefly about the Dervish now, which I think you wouldn't find too many Dervishes in many other Protectorate lists. And like Warjacks or War Beasts have a really difficult niche that they're trying to fill. Unless you've got a really specific goal for them, that they often don't see a lot of play. And the Dervish is one that, without Amon, would probably never get used. He's decent. I mean, he's got a healthy number of boxes for a light jack. He's got reasonable stats, Mat 6, which is effectively 8. Defense 13 is the tipping point. If you've played Crix Jacks, you know that 13's that really annoying bit where if you're a Mat 6 troop, you need to roll 7s. Gets a bit tricky when you're trying to do a lot of damage. So Armor 16 is not great, and Power 13 on the 2 swords. It's effectively Power 15, and that's a reasonable hitting power for a light jack. I think for me, if you're not at least at 15 or 16, you're probably not even worth looking at. And in a 4-point package, I mean, that's pretty decent. So looking at it, you can see why it doesn't see a lot of use. But the reason why I think it's good with Amon is obviously speed 7 and effectively Mat 8, 9, 10, 11, maybe even 12, and Power 17 up to perhaps. So we're going to have a little bit of a nightmare situation here with Peach coming over to say hello to the stack of books. Peach, leave the books. Peach. Come on now. This is the Dervish, by the way. He's pretty cool. So, Peaches. What are you doing? You weirdo. Leave it. Don't bite it. Peach. Look, I think the Dervish is a pretty good. Peach, leave that alone. I swear to God. This is not good, Peach. This is bad. Come and sit over here. Boy. Come here. Get away then. Crazy cat. Back to the Dervish. The Dervish brings basically the cheapest way to rack up synergy chain. And he's probably not going to be an endpoint, but one thing that I have been enjoying with playing Vlad, the Great Prince, has been sidesteps and some of the really interesting things that sidestep can bring to your movement and your activation for models, in particular models with multiple attacks. Some of the things I've done, like I've managed to kill quite a few casters with heavy warjacks because I can charge them 9 inches and then have 2 sidesteps to give you an effective 13, potentially 15 inch threat if you've got reach. The Dervish doesn't have reach, which is its biggest downside, especially when you compare to the 4-point Griffin. But he does have sidestep, which actually artificially gives you that reach if you've got models to bounce off. It's, you know, I can see the list that I'll eventually end up with taking probably 2 to 3 dervishes. It's not going to be the end point of the game, hopefully. Hopefully you're looking at, as I said, something else to end the synergy chain with. But in a pinch, if I rack up 3 or 4 synergy, I could potentially load up a dervish and sidestep him through to a caster with an effective threat range of 14.5 inches at power 17, 18, 19 if you get enough synergy up. So yeah, I think that can obviously end a game pretty quickly, and at a potential mat 10 to 12, it's definitely going to get the job done. So look at Dervish is for a 4-point jack, I think he's pretty cool. So, and hopefully the two Amon and Dervish combination will be successful. So I'm very excited to try out that combination actually, and I think I've got in mind a fairly good 50-point list for Amon that I wrote before, but I'm not going to show you that till next episode, I've decided. So that's it. Thank you for tuning in, and appreciate all the support I've got already, which is awesome. Go Team Muse. For what it's worth, I think Chain Attack rated Amon a D. I'm going to utilise the iPad that I have right here to actually look that up for you right now, just because I'm interested to know. Riveting television, isn't it? From Big Deno. Well prepared. It's just like a well-oiled machine. I'm excited about Menoth actually. It's been about 6 months since I started a new faction, which is cool. Where is Menoth? Protectorate. Amon. C minus. Feet 5, fair call. Board control 3. Hard to argue, although you might get board control from the warjacks that you'll have in your battle group. Synergy 7. Interesting that you can only rank someone a 7 when they've got the spell synergy. Aggression 6. Yeah, probably fair. And survivability 3. I don't think anyone would argue with his survivability, although as I said, defense 18 from melee, even if you're knocked down, is pretty legit if you have a wall. I wish Menoth could take Genesis Stone Tide. That would be interesting, wouldn't it? One thing that I will quickly say before I finish up. The reason why I think Amon can still work without his feet is Menoth have a couple of models that allow you to add focus. One is the Sanctifier and one is the Reclaimer. So the Reclaimer racks up friendly souls and you can pump it onto a jack at the start of the turn, and the Sanctifier actually does the same deal. So he collects soul tokens from friendly guys that die. So in a way, I can artificially have potentially up to 6 extra focus in a turn if I have a Sanctifier and a Reclaimer. So I could see Amon, if you include his Wrack, getting up to 19 focus in a turn. 6 from his feet, 6 from the focus that he normally has, 1 from the Wrack, and 6 from the Reclaimer plus the Sanctifier, which is pretty legit, I think. That's what I'm excited to try. So that's it. I'm going off to bed now. It's been a long night. I played a game at Good Game Shot tonight against Simon Hall, who used Darius, and I used Butcher 1. It was awesome. I smashed him. He reset. I smashed him again. He reset. I smashed him, and then I won. And then finally he killed me. So thank you, everyone. It's very exciting times. Protectorate of Menoth, Big Deno. Thank you. See you later. Say goodbye, Peach. Say goodbye.